Alright, so I think we're going to get started. It's 2 o'clock. We have the door open for seconds, so some stragglers coming in. But welcome, everyone. Welcome to today's session inside the Affineur's Cave. Before we do formal introductions, just a few housekeeping details, which I'm sure you've pretty much heard before every session. Please download the ACS conference app if you haven't done that by now. You're crazy, because it's awesome. You can also submit session evaluations through the app, which is way more handy and kills a lot less trees that way, I suppose. Tonight's award ceremony is going to be held at the Veterans Memorial Auditorium, which, if you look at the map, it's actually kind of a ways away, so build that into your travel schedules for the next year. The ceremony will take place from 4:30 to 6, and there'll be an awards reception from 6 to 7. This is obviously a very special night for every cheesemaker who enters cheese competition. You will be planning and attending. We will also be hosting first ever open mic night to keep the celebration going from 9 to 11 at the official conference bar Trinity House, which a few of you might have been to already. We'll see one day. Real quick before Emily's introduction as well, I would imagine everyone in the room is somewhat familiar with DCTA. There is information piece of paper in front of you. Everyone should have one. If not, definitely grab one on the way out. This is a yearly application cycle. Now this will be the third year in, fourth year. Either way, it's several years in. March to May is kind of the timeline for application. So if you are interested, start thinking about it now and planning on working on that next spring. This is in honor of Daphne Zepos, who some of you may know. All of you, I'm sure, have heard of her. She was a real force in our industry, and this is a way to honor her memory and continue the work that she started for many years. All right, on to a formal introduction of Emily. Her background is not a typical CV, but Emily worked as a newspaper reporter before falling in love with food brought her to actually work with food. She works with me, which is why I'm introducing her at Providence Kitchen as a cheesemonger, a buyer, and also did education coordination. Moved to Northern California and now works at the wholesale office at Small State Foods. She also chairs the cheese committee for the Good Food Awards, which I think many of you may have heard of. She's also served as a member of the board of directors for the California Artisan Cheese Committee. I think I'm less formal though. I think it's fairly inarguable that as you grow professionally or personally, you meet people along the way that inspire you and change you. And I count Emily as one of many in my career and my life as a person. I worked with Emily for several years at Providence Kitchen. I didn't know anything about cheese before I started there. We're all still learning. It's a crazy rabbit hole that we're all fairly deep inside of at this point. But Emily was a real inspiration for me. Brought a cool head to the game, which some of you may know doesn't always exist in basic cheese counter. A real thirst for knowledge and enthusiasm for learning people and stories, and really digging deep into the details behind really every piece of cheese or every product that she sells. We sort of went in different directions. I went north to Vermont, she went west to California, and we're 3 times apart, still keep in touch, and continue to grow our friendship. It's a real honor for me to introduce Emily to you today. Many of you know Emily, some of you might count her as close friends I do, but I'm excited for all of you who don't know her to have that first experience with her, because she's awesome, and you all are in for a real treat as Emily tries to dig deep into the very complicated world of affinage. So without further ado, Emily Shartin.
And thank all of you for coming. I'm really flattered that you're all here. I'm honored to see so many folks in the audience that I know. It's been a really big year for me. This award has given me just a great opportunity to travel, to learn in Europe, but as you all know, an equally important part cheese as a monger, as been said. I currently work on the distribution side of the industry. For me, this project started with cheese shops, and specifically cheese shops in Paris, with their beautiful displays. You can see a few examples here. I was on vacation last year and started wondering about how cheesemongers in France do what they do, pretty simply. The different ways that the cheese gets from the producer to the consumer, and how that compares to what we do in the US. So one of the things that really intrigued me was how many of these small shops have their own caves, or if not actual caves, spaces where they keep cheese under specific temperature and humidity conditions that allow the cheeses to ripen and evolve until the cheesemongers deem them ready for sale. I heard the story of Andre, who reportedly opened the first shop in Paris with a cave for ripening cheeses, and I was curious about this practice. To what degree these caves allow cheesemongers to care for the cheese, why this is an important part of the process for them. There aren't a lot of shops in the U.S. with these kinds of spaces, although there's certainly been a fair amount of discussion and opinion on the topic. So I just wanted to learn more about this European way of doing things, and hopefully this is something that the TCTA enabled. This picture on the left here is actually a passageway from an underground feeding space in Paris, and there are a couple of other shots here of some of the caves that I visited. So in addition to the small shops, I was also interested in what was happening at some of the larger facilities in Europe, where affinage is practiced on a much more intensive and specific basis. And I visited several of those as well. Here you can see 80 spaces for Ponte on the right, Roche on the left. My interest really was in seeing what roles all of these different handlers, large and small, are playing in the life of the cheese, and how they're affecting it as it makes its way from the producer to the consumer. This was the practice that I wanted to learn about, and this is sort of what the DCTA encourages. It's meant to focus on European cheese traditions, and how they can be taught and brought back to the U.S. I wanted to get a sense of the values of the different people that I met, learn about their approaches to cheese, and see what we as cheesemongers and distributors in the U.S. may be able to learn from them. Okay, so my trip spanned 6 weeks from April to May, and I began in Hillsbury in London as no other premier Affineur exporter, retailer of British cheese. They have 2 shops in London, and headquarters that are built into a series of yellow arches, which you can see here. From there, I flew to France, and made my way to Mons, which is located just outside of Lyon, in a medieval village called Saint-Ouen-le-Châtel. The business is run by brothers Daphne Zepos. They primarily are Affineurs and work with cheeses from all across France, including nearly every AOP designated cheese. They also export and operate their own shops, and they have a really busy retail counter at Les Alpes and Lyon. They span the whole of the gamut. Next time I went to Annecy, visited shops run by Jacques Rouleau and Pierre Gay. Like Mons, they both are Maison Ouvrier de France, which is a distinction that recognizes the country's top cheese professionals. They both have caves associated with their shops. Jacques are located at his parents' house in the suburban Providence. Also in Haute-Savoie, I spent a few days working at Picard, which is a revolution Affineur in the Haute-Savoie. This is the impressive view from just above their facility in the town of Manille. In the French region of France, I visited Marcel Petit, the famous Affineurs in the Jura Mountains. They're located not far from a fellow named Marjana, who's a young retailer who comes from a family of cheesemongers. He's also one of the newest mayor of France. Of the people I met, he really has some of the strongest opinions on the importance of shop-based Affineurs, which I'll share with you in a little bit. I went to Paris and spent time at several shops, including July and Rhode Island July. These are all shops that had amassed and cared for a large collection of cheeses from around the country, as opposed to just working with a smaller selection of regional cheeses. And they finished up in the Netherlands with Betty Martin Foster, who runs for Montreal News, and also Affineurs and Exporters. And these are some of the happy Dutch cows at a farm that makes butter, and of course my little fat cheese called Rice House. So, it was an amazing and very inspirational group of people and places. They were all incredibly hospitable and generous and wise. And they all shared very different perspectives and practices. The guiding principle clearly was getting cheese from the producer to the consumer in the best position. And for all of them, that involved taking on part of the cheese ripening process. All these folks are in an intermediary position of working to do right by both the producer and the consumer. And all over many years have carved out their own unique ways of doing this. So today, I want to share with you a bit of what I saw of the system, focusing on the ways these folks select cheese and work really closely with producers, the different types of cheeses that they choose to work with, and some of the specific ways that they work with them. Again, all of the time I'm thinking about how we, as part of a comparatively young American cheese industry, can become better stewards of the cheeses that we work with. Okay. So I want to start first with some of the different perspectives I encountered as I started talking to shop owners about Affinage and cheese care and why they advocate in their shops. These are a few of the different ways that people I met explain what they do. So Martine Dubois, who's a fromager in Paris, has 3 ripening rooms in her basement, where she strategically keeps different cheeses. And on the right there, you can see the hidden passageway. This is actually, the middle photo is actually in the shop. The entrance to the cave is underneath the counter. You climb down the ladder in the shop. Dubois doesn't call herself an Affineur, but prefers the term or ripener, somebody who can hold cheese, finish it, and then sell it at just the right moment. When I asked why not Affinage, one of her employees said they considered it their role to maintain the work done by the Affineur. There were also folks like Martin in the Jura, who I mentioned earlier, who has caves below the shop and works with many cheeses, including Mornier and extra-aged versions of Pontet. He's actually a cheese maker by training, and he learned Affinage with Moules and Rhode Island. He believes strongly that by putting his own stamp on his cheeses, his job is creating something unique and probably more importantly attractive to his customers. When I asked him about the importance of having a cave and working with cheese, he said, you know, it's why my friends come here. It's my taste. He receives Mornier when it's just over 1 month old and continues to turn it and run it with brine for up to 4 months, when it achieves this really very rich and silky texture and this sort of mild fermented sweetness. Another perspective would be that of Betty Foster, who was from Montreal News in Amsterdam with her husband Martin. In 1989, she began working with cheese directly, or began working directly with producers and ripening cheese at her shop after having difficulty sourcing cheeses that were properly cared for. Without her ability to ripen cheese herself, she believes it would be almost impossible to maintain the level of quality that she built her business on. In Paris, a large majority of the cheese sourced by Laurent Dubois, who runs 3 shops in the city, actually comes directly from farmers. Théo Michel, who is Dubois' right-hand man, noted that many of the farmstead producers that they work with just don't have the wherewithal, the time, the money, and the space to age cheese, which is where the shop starts to add value. Laurent Dubois has caves below each of their 3 stores, as well as offsite storage for larger cheese. They were notably the only shops I visited that identified producers on their signs. So This notion of doing the work that cheesemakers, for whatever reason, can't do, definitely isn't the reasons why larger entrepreneurs exist. They simply are just a more necessary part of the logistical system in places like Franche-Comté, where there's so much cheese being made. There just needs to be somebody to ripen it and get it to market. But one thing that really intrigued me about all of the larger entrepreneurs that I visited, Meals Out at Moles, Marcel and Everhard, their deep interest. I think you could probably even call it a mission in supporting cheesemakers and helping them do their work in a sustainable way, and in turn supporting a tradition. This is something, again, I will talk about a little more later. Can I answer any questions so far? Questions about where I went? I know it was a lot of places. Yes? Can you speak a little slower? Sure. No problem. I want to give an overview of the types of cheeses that people I met are working with. For starters, most of the places I visited had programs for working with small, young cheeses. Moles, for instance, received many of their small format cheeses directly from producers. Days after they're made, they all come in these blue crates. Both Moles and Meals Out Dairy, which you can see here, work very intensively with small young cheeses. At both facilities, several people work every day receiving and unpacking, tracking dates, and carefully laying cheeses out on these trays. Laurent Moles says that the first job of the Affineur is unpacking with a lot of precision. A course of care for each cheese is determined depending on how the cheese arrives. If it's wet, if it's dry, if it's already developing the rinds. For the most part, these cheeses spend a few weeks being flipped and turned and added as they ripen. Here you can see a look inside the small cheese aging spaces at Pachon and Duboulot. These cheeses, of course, can be ripened to various stages depending on customer preference. Some shops would set cheeses aside for customers who prefer them harder and more gnarly. This seemed to be more of a popular thing in Paris. So these were cheeses that had been kind of cordoned off at one side of the cake. At Moles, age creates some interesting considerations with regard to AOP cheeses, since the regulations often stipulate that a cheese has to spend a certain amount of time in its home region before it can receive an AOP designation. This means that a cheese is sometimes quite a ways into its ripening process before it can even travel to Moles, which means they don't always have as much control over the development of the cheese as they'd like. Moles recently built another facility in the Auvergne region of France, specifically to ripen Saint-Nectaire closer to the origin. They also work with some Loire Valley goat cheeses that they receive really early from producers, which then can't bear the names Saint-Maur de Touraine or Celle-sur-Cher, for example, because they haven't spent enough time in the home region.
What was the temperature in that room?
In this room?
Yeah.
Those cubes, between, let's see, 8 and 12 Celsius, which ends up being, I think, between, 45 and 55, somewhere in that range, yeah. They had actually, outside of this room, there were a bunch of different kind of smaller caves, so there was a range of temperatures.
It feels cool.
Yes, it was. When it comes to harder aged cheeses, I think this discussion starts to become a little more nuanced. There are, of course, large affineurs like Petite or Picard that ripen young Comté or Avenance from start to finish. Again, these are regional facilities that work with specific AOP cheeses from their areas. But many shops with some larger facilities, like Meals Out Dairy, work with at least some cheese that's already undergone the bulk of its ripening elsewhere. This is where I think that the semantic debate over the cases, this work might be better characterized as cheese care rather than affinage. Carolyn Bouquet, who runs training programs for French cheesemongers, calls it the reprise of affinage. It's something also to talk a little bit more about later. Even if the care required for more aged cheeses is less intensive than what's required for young cheeses, most places say it's still important. It's still important to ensure that cheese continues to evolve properly, or at least not evolve poorly, while it's waiting to be sold. And many also work very carefully on tasting and selecting directly from producers, so they know exactly what they'll be receiving. Many of the hard cheeses that Neal's Yard receives have been ripened by their producers. When they arrive in London, they're kept in an area that's about 53 degrees Fahrenheit and upwards of 90% humidity, and they're regularly turned. You can see from this, we have a chart here. It spells it out. Neal's Yard is also looking at ways that they can have a more specific effect on certain cheeses. They began experimenting with storing Lancashire at their shop in Borough Market. After it was discovered that the cheese develops more flavor and a more desirable texture over several months in this slightly warmer climate of the shop. Comté is something that many people talk about since it's a staple of so many shops in France. Mons, for instance, receives Comté after 6 months and continues the work that the previous Affineur began for up to 2 years. They age most of their older cheeses in a converted train tunnel, which is not far from their facility in Central Rochelle, which they opened about 7 years ago. Some of the places that I visited, including Le Rond-Bois, Jeanne, and Doulo, select Comté from Marcel Petit when the cheese is already 1 or 2 years old, and then make a determination about when to sell it. They may even hold on to it for as many as 2 more years, during which time they continue to care for it. Jacques Doulo's family has worked with Marcel Petit for 50 years. He keeps Comté in his caves, again, which are in the basement of his parents' house in a residential area. He regularly rubs the mills with salt water. It's a step that he says is crucial to preserve the quality and texture of the cheese as it makes its way to the consumer. And it's something that he does out of respect for the profession, the cheese, and the producer. I have a little video for you next, actually, of Jeff's work washing cheese. Yeah, but they would disclose them afterwards. Yeah.
Did you see that much using cloth to do the wash?
Sorry, I should repeat these questions. Sorry. I should ask if he's using a rack. No, a lot of it was brushes, actually. No, a lot of what I saw. I'm sorry, the second question was, did I see a lot of racks?
Did they wash the bottom?
Not, the question is, did they wash the bottom? Not that big, they would wash the top and put it away, and then they flip them and wash, they wash one side at a time, basically.
So, Emily, there was anything not unwashed the side that was going to be on the surface?
On the surface, yes. So one theme that was really repeated throughout my visits was the importance of working very closely with cheesemakers. To hear Hervé Laurence explain that, for instance, working with producers was one of the primary reasons their company moved into Affinage. This is a picture of all at the facility in San Juan, Wichita. He's here this weekend. Probably many of you have seen him. The business started in Auvergne with a cheese truck, which was driven by their father, Hubert. Hervé, who's on the left, first worked as a cheesemonger in Paris, and then in the 1980s, he opened a cheese factory in Milan. When the family became more interested in providing a better selection for their consumers, they began learning to mature cheese so they could build a larger supply without sacrificing quality. Now, as an increasing amount of cheese production in France becomes industrialized, Moles is taking an active role in preserving the farmstead tradition. They work very closely with about 120 producers, including this goat farm that we visited just outside of Rhode Island. They regularly visit their producers to ensure quality and troubleshoot any problems that may be manifesting themselves during ripening. The Moles brothers feel very strongly about the role that they play in helping small cheesemakers thrive, when they might otherwise be inclined to start selling their milk to industrial producers. Many people have suggested that to be a good Affineur, you have to be a cheesemaker. You have to know what the cheesemaker is setting in motion during the make and be able to encourage the appropriate microbial diversity during ripening. And I think Moles is a place where you start to see this play out in the kind of work they do with their cheesemakers. This is the same farm from the last slide.
What is he making here?
What are they making? These are small, actually, what she's making very small fresh cheeses, and not things that are actually aged. In the Haute-Savoie, Joseph Picard began working with farmstead revolutionary producers in the early 1990s as a way to support a cheesemaking tradition that he felt was being subsumed by cooperatives. Today, the company buys revolutionary from about 13 cheesemakers. Picard regularly collects cheese from several of their producers directly at a market in the Rhode which is what you can see here. Bertrand, Joseph's son, essentially goes to the market and waits for the different producers to show up. You can see in this picture on the top left, they all have these specially made boxes that they use for packing up their cheese. Picard also works with the other cheeses of the Haute-Savoie, including Tomes and Beaufort and Hollands, which you can see being boxed up by a producer on the bottom right. Bertrand told me that he believes it's easier to make cheese than to sell cheese. So Picard's goal is to showcase the quality of these cheeses, and again, to do work that the producers would not otherwise be able to do themselves. Selection is also critical, of course, in meals and dairy, where the team regularly visits cheesemakers to taste and purchase cheeses that will continue to ripen with their producers before arriving in London several months later. I was able to tag along on a trip to Somerset to select Montgomery's, Keynes, and Warwick carefully. So this is George Keane on the left, Montgomery's in the middle, and Morgan from Warwick carefully on the right. Meals Yard Sales Director Jason Hines explained to me that regularly tasting with producers over many years has helped their team not only manage quality, but also establish a profile for certain cheeses so they can then share with customers. It's also helped them better understand and anticipate when certain cheeses will peak. He noted that this is really only something that can be achieved through consistent tasting, that there's really no shortcut. Meals Yard also benefits from regularly having producers in to visit and even work. Mary Holbrook roaster right then, Cardo, which is her wash triangle cheese at the Arches, where it can be cared for alongside other wash triangle cheeses. She comes in weekly to help with the work herself. Joe Bennett, who makes the goat's milk cheeses in a brick and in a salon, regularly visits when he makes deliveries to discuss how his cheeses are ripening and to troubleshoot any issues with the Affineurs. When I was there, they were working out some issues around salting in a particular batch. Owen Bailey, who's one of Neil Zarrett's chief maturers, said having this kind of communication with producers is gold. It's something that they really value very much. Yes, Liz?
Did you see that same structure in France the way you did at Mills Yard in terms of producers coming over to be involved after cheese and up?
So the question was, did I see the same thing in France? Did I see producers coming in to be involved with their cheese in France as I did in England? No, not in the same way. But, you know, again, at Moles, for instance, they have a very serious quality assurance program. So there's a lot of, not necessarily cheesemakers coming in, but their team visiting cheesemakers, and working with them. But not the cheesemakers that are coming back to work on the outside.
Don't hear the producers' names as much as you do just to compare to Mills Yard.
In France.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is there
exactly.
any discussion around that?
I wouldn't say discussion. Again, it was striking to me that, again, Affineur was the only place I visited where they did identify all of the cheesemakers. I think it's just a different, kind of a different system. The system has evolved differently. There are many cheesemakers making the same cheeses, and just sort of historically, that's kind of how it's been organized. Yeah. Susan.
Can I just add a piece to that?
Yes.
One of the things about the system in France is a very, very small country with a lot of people in cheese, and retailers guard very, very carefully their sources of cheese, so it's kind of a trade secret. So it's really stunning that the Hollands July is actually revealing these sources of cheese from. People don't do that because it's whose cheese you have is your competitive advantage.
Yes, Laura. Is there another question? Okay. So, as for some of the specifics of affinage and cheese care, everyone I talked to had a different combination of temperatures and humidities that they felt worked best for their cheeses, and different systems for maintaining those cheeses. Not surprising. Everyone flipped or brushed or washed their cheeses according to certain schedules and recipes. Rather than go into all of those specifics, I'm just going to kind of go into a brief overview here of some of the notable practices that I observed. A handful of places have an alloir or a drying room, which is usually a first stop for cheeses that arrive too wet. These are warmer rooms where the humidity is always in motion. Basically, the thinking is that the warm air absorbs the moisture from the cheese, and then the moisture then condenses and is carried away. The goal here is to encourage the development of certain microflora on the surface of the cheese while inhibiting unwanted molds. These are photos from inside the alloir at Moles, where they're constantly sorting cheeses to determine which are ready to move into the ripening case and which ones need a little more time to dry. This determination is made largely by touch. And when I was there, it was overseen by a woman named Natalina, who just makes very, very quick assessments. Neil's Dairy uses this drying room for cheeses like Venus Loss, which you can see here, which lose 25% of their body weight over 24 hours in the drying room. Owen Bailey told me that development of the rind. Without it, the cheeses can develop split and slip rinds once they're placed in a more humid ripening room. Here's humidity. At Picard, Revolution moves through a series of rooms that range from about 53 to 55 degrees with nearly 100% humidity, as you can see from this clip. After a couple of weeks, the cheeses are all wrapped and left to rest for another couple of weeks before they're sold. They're all unwrapped and graded and then wrapped again for sale. The intermediary wrapping stage is meant to mimic the conditions of the small cake by keeping the cheese humid and allowing it to soften during the couple of weeks that it just spends resting. Betty Hoster, she's actually a customer of Picard's, interestingly. She sells the cheeses in their cheeses in her 2 shops. In the Netherlands, she keeps 3 small walk-ins, ranging from about 41 to 53 degrees, for storing and ripening a selection of European cheeses. Not surprisingly, she also works with a large number of Goudas, which are kept at close to 60 degrees. A temperature, she says, is best for developing a deeper flavor, even though she uses a lot of the cheese to shrinkage. Because most of these cheeses are coated in plastic coat, they ripen slowly and tend to need less intensive care than some of the other cheeses that she works with. Marcel Petit, on the other hand, ripens only at lower temperatures, about 46 degrees Fahrenheit, which makes for a very slow maturation process. When Mr. Petit first went into business, this reportedly was very unusual practice. Ponte was typically kept at temperatures closer to 60 degrees, but he thought this slow ripening made for better cheese. Most of the physical affinage work at Petit is handled by robots, which brush and flip all of the wheels. I found it notable that Claude Carey, who's pictured here and who oversees the case, downplayed the work of the affineurs at Marcel Petit, insisting that the cheese is really in control, and in a sense it dictates what they do. This is Geoffrey, who's one of about 7 triers employed by the company. So, of course, what Petit is really known for is its rigorous tasting and its ability to identify profiles for specific customers.
Question?
Yes.
Can you explain what he was doing with the hammer?
The question is, what is he doing with the hammer? So they, as part of their tasting, they pull out and tap, if you will, with the back of their cheese iron there. They're listening for fissures, basically. As you tap the cheese, once you're well trained, you can actually hear the difference. You can hear the difference in sound. It indicates that there might be a small crack in the paste. And I can't identify it, but I've seen them doing it. So they're looking for flaws, basically. Yeah. It's just something that they would mark, and track. They're not necessarily, nothing changes, right there for that cheese.
Does he put that plug back in?
Okay.
Does he put the plug back in?
Oh, he does. Yes, they put the plug back in. They taste, everybody with their taste, and they put the plug back. Yes. Yeah.
So all the affineurs are using different humidity and temperature. Is there a set range that has to be within that to be considered baking?
That's a good question. So the question is, is there a specific range of temperatures that the Affineurs are using? And is that accurate with any kind of distinction? I would say, everybody that the general range was between 45 and 55. There were some, again, that ripened at a slightly higher temperature, but it doesn't carry, as far as I know, it doesn't carry with it any specific designation. These were just the different temperatures and conditions that these folks had chosen to work with.
So some sort of, I visited, and years ago when I was like shopping, I saw a refrigerator that they call ACS. So, you just are making that to your own temperature and your own humidity, you can call that ACS.
Well, I suppose it has to do with, kind of what, how the shop wants to sell its cheese, how they want to market it. I don't know if, in the example you're talking about, the cheese maybe did spend some time, in a cave-like condition, and then was moved into the refrigerator. Yeah, I see. I guess I'm not sure. I think the distinction here, calling your cheese cave-aged is kind of a decision that is at the shop level. These shops that I visited, in some cases, did specify that this cheese, had been ripened in their case, but, it was kind of on a case-by-case basis, and not everybody necessarily did that, kind of stated that specifically. Yeah.
You said that he tries all the cheeses. Does he plug them and try them, or just tap them with it?
They plug and release them. Yeah.
Everywhere.
And between their two facilities, Marcel Petit has two facilities, and between the two there are, I think, about 200,000 meals of cheese. So again, it's really the actual affinage is done by robots, but what makes them unique is the amount of tasting that they do at all stages of the cheese ripening, and then finding profiles and finding customers for those cheeses.
What do you mean by robots?
Yeah.
Or is it an actual robot?
It's an actual robot, yeah. T-Rex, actually, I have video, but it's not ready for the presentation. But it is a robot. It kind of looks like I don't know how to describe it. It goes in between, the rows, and it has some arms that can pull the cheese out and bring it down, and it gets brushed and flipped and then put back on the shelf. So it's kind of just moving up and down each of the rows. Yeah. Yes.
The robot is doing the brushing?
Yes. Yeah. I'll try to find the video. I didn't realize there was so many questions. But I have the data. Yes.
What was the process that the Affineurs undertook to identify the flavor profiles? How did they approach this process, and what steps did they take to develop it?
So the first part.
Of course. What was the process that the Affineurs undertook to identify the profiles and their flavor?
So the question is, what was the process that they undertook, the Affineurs undertook to identify flavor profiles? Which is a really good question. So much of it, a place like Marcel Petit is tasting, right? It's doing the work. And I feel like it was the same with Meals Right Here. It's having that relationship, being able to taste. When I was at Hollands, we tasted every day, cheeses at different stages of ripeness, even cheeses like Camembert, things that were not, not as age holding, to kind of just try to get sort of a baseline idea, of what the cheese should taste like. A lot of the folks I met too, it wasn't entirely their call, right? A lot of them were definitely thinking about their customers and kind of acknowledging that different customers might like different things. So, you know, some folks might want a goat cheese that's really young, that's barely rind, you know, that's very fresh, and some, again, might prefer something that's like those pictures I showed of the, you know, super aged gnarly cheese. So I think it's, you know, kind of those two things together, but really, tasting is a huge part of it. And then what was the other thing, sorry?
So you kind of answered a part of it, like how they approach this process. To add on to that, like do they keep records on it? Would they visit the farm? Would they take note of all the, yeah.
Yes. They would have, you know, there were definitely, well, it's a good question. I mean, there were, you know, a lot of it I think was just, you know, they did it for so long. They kind of knew what to expect. You know, there weren't a lot of like active notes being taken, like when we tasted, you know, pancake, for instance. But some places did. You know, Neil's Garden, we tasted with Jamie Montgomery. You know, everything was written out. You know, every batch of cheese, the flavor profiles, everything was, you know, were recorded.
And did they try to, when they wanted to develop certain flavor profiles, how did they start doing that? Were they like, oh, we just want to put this cheese over here for a little bit, or, I mean, how long did a process take?
Yeah, so the question is how long does the process take, just sort of in developing profiles that you want to develop. Also a good question. You know, a lot of the folks I met, you know, there wasn't necessarily an interest in like actively trying to change anything that already existed. You know, it was really very much working with, you know, what the cheesemaker made, recognizing that there's going to be differentiations in, you know, by batch, there's going to be different flavors. And again, there are customers who appreciate that. If there were actual problems with the cheese or something, you know, something that was an issue, at the larger places, you know, like Picard or Moles, there was definitely a lot of work with the cheesemaker to see if it was something, you know, in the make process that could be changed, you know, to achieve a different result. Which I think again comes back to this idea of affinage really going hand in hand with cheesemaking. You know, so much of what happens in affinage really depends on what happens at the very end, you know, in the vat. So there was definitely a lot of work there.
Thank you.
Yes.
I was wondering, since there are so many cheeses in that game, how many cheeses is he assigned, like, row A through F, and then that's the corner? Like, he's only testing for one profile?
No,
Is that up and down?
in this facility, there's only actually 2 people doing this, and they've got, you know, close to 100,000 cheeses there, so they're not necessarily assigned, you know, assigned anything in particular. They're definitely, you know, they're tasting kind of just in a you know, progression. Yeah.
When they're testing, are they testing one sample from each batch? Or are they testing, you know, so it's representative of the batch?
Yeah.
Or
That's a good question. So, well, they say they taste every cheese. They definitely taste every cheese, or they taste every batch. I mean, I don't know.
A batch is a whole month of production.
Yeah, so
From one.
with
Yeah.
Comte in general, depends on the Affineur they taste by the batch. Marcel Petit does not sell, nor do they taste by batch. They taste by cheese. So then, and then they sell according to the cheese. So even if you buy a pallet from them, it can be a mixture of batches, which, as Vince said, batches is a month and a year. And so then it'd be really hard to go by, in their philosophy, it's very hard to go by batch, because there could be 31 days in a month. And so then there could be huge variety within that batch. So one wheel would not be indicative of an entire month of production. But they're the only ones who age Comté and do not sell by batch. They taste only. But other Comté Affineurs, I'm sure that you visited, would probably do more by batch.
Can I ask one more question? How do they pay for this cheese? So is the Affineur always buying the cheese directly from the producer?
Yeah, that's a good question.
And how do they decide on the price?
Right. I mean, yes, they do buy it.
Can you repeat the question?
Oh, sorry. So the question is, how do they decide on the price? Does the Affineur buy the cheese from the producer? So they do buy it. One thing interesting, they pay for it up front, and then there will be a bonus given to the fruitier, who is the cheesemaker, the longer the cheese ages. So there is sort of a, there's a price, but you can get additional payments if your cheese is good. Is there anything you would add to that, Joel?
No, yeah, that's exactly what we did.
What is the business model?
That's a tricky one. Do you just mean in general, sort of how?
I mean, what are the typical, for the 100% markup they sell at wholesale?
Yeah.
Walk us through an average price of cheese.
Right.
From retail,
So,
guess what?
yeah, no, so the question is, what is the average price of cheese? This is a good question, and I actually don't have specific information on this. I wasn't able to get to a specific price, information. I don't have it. But, it would pay, the people who are ripening the cheeses would pay different prices, from the producers. And obviously, they're putting work into the cheese. So there is going to be a market based on the work that they do. I think that the goal for a lot of the people I talked to was to show their customers that the money was worthwhile, the additional price, was a value add, was something worth paying for. So I'm sorry I can't answer that more specifically. Yes.
So just to add one small piece of that, and you can find local malls and ask them about that if you see them. But two things that affineurs have to take into account. One, they have to cover with markup the work and the time that they've invested in the cheese. And they also have to take into account the fact that every day that the cheese is in their case is losing weight. And if you're doing affinage, you need to calculate both of those because you're paying based on pounds. But when a cheese arrives, it weighs more than when it goes out. Kilos, pounds, whatever. Yeah.
To his question about the business model of Comté, which is different, I think, than most business models, is actually the price is set by the board, and the people who produce the milk hire the fruitier, who then sells the product to the Affineur, and everybody down the chain is bonused by the quality of the product. So it's depending on how long it stays in the case and what it sells. And each like Marcel Petit or whatever the other ones are, there's I think 19 Affineurs or something. They actually contract with the fruitiers in a specific area. It's all very defined on what they're allowed to do too. So the producers, the fruitier, can only buy milk within a certain area, and the Affineurs can only do business with certain. It's really like socialism, sort of stretched over capitalism. It's regulated. In fact, the person who produces the milk can't be the person who makes the cheese, and that can't be the person who ages the cheese. They all are. So they
cheese care also extends into shops where there might not be a cube on site. This is the back of the women's counter at Les All Mill. You can see kind of this thin layer of fog that helps maintain humidity in the case during the day. The Neil's Yard shops in London also pay attention to how their environments affect the cheeses on display. There are these sort of makeshift showers in both corners, in the corners of both shops that help maintain some humidity. And the Borough Market shop also has their plans that keep the floor down. The Covent Garden shop is also playing around keeping cheeses soft, or keeping cheese like Tunworth in this little closet you can see on the right, as a way to help keep them from drying out. So one thing that interested me when I began working on this project is something that Daphne Zepos characterized in an article she wrote as this shrinking craft of the fromage in Europe. And I was sort of wondering if this practice of working so intensively with cheese was becoming something of a lost art. There's an organization called the Fromage de France that offers various training programs in areas from hygiene to cheese and wine pairings for both aspiring and established cheesemongers. There are currently about 3,000 cheesemongers working in France. Caroline Bouquet, who I mentioned earlier, works as a trainer for this organization, and she estimates that the organization receives about 1,000 inquiries a year from potential cheesemongers, people who want to work in the field. Last year alone, nearly 500 people entered the profession, and on top of that, the organization tracked the creation of 240 new businesses, which I thought was pretty impressive. One of the organization's programs is teaching cheesemongers about cheese making and the evolution of cheeses that ripens. They guide cheesemongers in working with producers on selection, as well as the technical aspects of affinage, such as airflow and other environmental considerations. Okay, so now I want to shift gears and take a quick look at some of what's happening in the U.S. And to do that, I wanted to kind of circle back to some of the new points that I shared with you at the beginning of this presentation about the different approaches that I've encountered. Mark Shannon, for instance, who spoke of the unique taste of his cheeses. Eric Meredith, who runs the affinage facility at Wegmans in Rochester, spent several years working for Moles and believes that high quality is the reason that certain shops in France, like Jeanne and Dubelow, are successful. Customers seek them out because of what they're able to do with their cheese and no one else can do. This reminded me a little of what Brian Knopf told me about the case at Murray's, which, as many of you know, has built an extensive affinage program at its warehouse in Queens, which I visited earlier this year. Murray's has developed some of its own cheeses in partnership with different producers, including Hudson Flour with Old Shadow Sheepering, and Taurus with Vermont Creamery. They also work with producers like Springbrook Farm and Brendan Tarantes to attain a specific profile. Brian used to manage the case, and before he moved on, he told me that one of their goals was to make a discernible impact on every cheese that passed through their caves. Similar to many of the shops I visited in France, to give their customers something they believe is the best. Bedford Cheese Shop in Manhattan also has a couple of spaces for ripening cheese that continue to evolve since they opened a few years ago. And this is my alma mater, Fromage Kitchen in Massachusetts, which opened a cave beneath the Cambridge shop in the 1990s. It's not used for active ripening so much as just optimal storage space for the many cheeses that it receives, especially from abroad. And I would say it's an extension of the storage practice of working directly and very closely with producers. When I think of a place like Mons or Rhode Island July, who spoke a lot about supporting small cheesemakers, I also think of the cellars of Jasper Hill in Vermont, or Crown Finish Caves, which is a relatively new affinage facility in Brooklyn. They're located in a former urban Crown Heights, and have begun working with several producers, including Coach Farm, Springbrook Farm, and Woolshed Sheepherder. Both Crown Finish and the cellars of Jasper Hill, which is probably the closest that we have to a European Affineur, do what they do to support small farmers and cheesemakers who can ideally expand their businesses because they don't have to focus on affinage. I think this certainly has a potential for a huge impact on American cheesemaking. But there is a question also, I think, of how comfortable cheesemakers are in the U.S. with outsourcing a part of their production to an affineur, the way it's commonly done in Europe. There's a different mindset here, and Matteo Keeler, who owns the cellars with his brother Andy, summed it up by saying that in the U.S., the cheese is an extension of the ego and the identity of the producer. In Europe, the identity is with the cheese and not the cheesemaker. Sean and Daddy, who owns Bleeding Heart Creamery, which is located not far from where I work in California. Here you can see inside her very crowded aging space, where she often has to stack wheels during her peak production months and release cheese earlier than she'd like to free up space. For logistical reasons, she's very much in favor of larger affinage facilities or even properly equipped shops that can take some of the burden off of small cheesemakers. But given how many issues can crop up during affinage, particularly when the cheese is very young, she also knows that any relationship with an affineur would have to be a really careful collaboration. Yesterday also I spoke with Jeremy Stevenson from Springbrook Farm, who said he wouldn't want to work for a creamery that didn't play some role in maturing its own cheeses. He believes very strongly in the role that his case played in the development of the cheese-like guarantees. Vermont Creamery collaborates with both Murray's and Wegmans, and we began wheels of Taurus, which is the donut-shaped cheese they make for Murray's. Adeline Gerard, who's Vermont Creamery's general manager, told me that they became involved in these collaborations because they had confidence in what Wegmans and Murray's were doing with regard to affinage. She also noted that they had specifically chosen to develop new cheeses for these partnerships, rather than send green meals of something like Coupole or Lamouche, which are cheeses that Vermont Creamery still wants full control over. The goal in these partnerships is to expose more customers to different types of goat cheeses with geotrichomines. Food safety is, of course, very much a concern as well, which I'm sure goes without saying. Adeline and many others stressed that it's important that any kind of ripening or finishing is done properly, both for the sake of the cheese and the sake of the industry. There are, of course, numerous risk and liability concerns, and quality assurance becomes a really crucial step in the process. Some folks I've talked to have voiced their concerns that people new to the field might try things that they don't really understand fully, and might end up having a negative impact on the cheese, which of course is a very valid concern. But I would also add that I asked a lot of the people that I met in Europe about this, and most of them said they didn't see it as a huge concern. In general, they're very encouraged by what's happening in the U.S. They're happy to see more cheese professionals taking a really serious interest in cheese care and affinage. They would say that the best way to learn about it is to work with somebody who's done it for many years. So I thought that was interesting, an interesting thing to hear from them. Okay, so computer is not cooperating. So I've talked a lot, and I just want to leave you with a few concluding thoughts. of time and effort into what they do. They've been doing it for many years, in some cases all their lives. And ultimately, they're all guided by how to do best, by both the producer and the consumer. In explaining what he does, for instance, Jacques Dubois said his intention is to ensure that there's no break in quality between the producer and the customer's plate. He considers working with cheese both a privilege and commitment. We also talked a bit about whether caves are just marketing tools. He acknowledged that they might, be seen as such. But what's important is that the work being done is real. As I touched on earlier, there's definitely a semantic debate over what counts as affinage. I know cheese makers feel very strongly that the work that they do when a cheese is early in its development, when it's at its fussiest, is really the most intensive part of the job. There's certainly a lot of troubleshooting and problem solving at this stage, while what a shop might do at the end of the process is much less complicated. But there were also several who suggested that affinage is about the entire system of getting the cheese from the producer to the consumer, however that might be divided. Affinage might ultimately be the wrong word for it. But I think what you see in Europe, or what I saw in Europe, is how everyone has a role in this process. There are places like Marcel Petit and Picard that focus just on affinage. There's Niels Gardner and Mons, who are both affineurs and retailers. And then, of course, there are all these shops that ripen cheeses just for their customers. Eric, again, Providence, believes there's a lot more room for affineurs to work in the U.S., and that quality will only improve as the process becomes more compartmentalized. People are able to focus on what they do best. Something that Bronwyn Percival and Niels Gardner said also sticks with me, and that is that she should always be matured in the place where it's going to do best. So I think sometimes a shop might be the right place to right there and finish something. Sometimes it might be a larger facility that you select, that you visit to select your cheese. Sometimes it might be a combination of the two. I think how you decide this comes back to the mission of the business. For many of the people I met, after all else is said and done, maturing cheese ultimately comes down to a sensory experience, namely watching cheese evolve every day, responding to any issues that arise, and tasting. Again, as we've discussed. I will leave you finally with this observation from Jason and Bill's yard. His view of the most basic tools of affinage. You need to have your wits around you, your eyes open, and your senses enabled.
Have you ever found any texts or books on affinage that are available?
There are books that, let's see, there are books that have information about affinage in them, yes. Maybe have books that are entirely related to the subject.
No books devoted entirely to it.
Not that I know of. Does anybody else know? The question is, are there books devoted entirely to affinage? Yeah.
There's never been book written.
Sue says no, she's not familiar with mine. I think it's difficult because every cheese, is so different. To kind of write a comprehensive text on that subject, would take some time. Yes?
They're actually a very scientific jargon-filled book by P.F. Fox called Cheese, Chemistry, and Physics. It's not solely focused on affinage, but if you got better than rudimentary science understanding of chemistry and physics, you can draw a lot of important conclusions from that book. It's a very expensive book. It's $700 for the $2 book set.
You're rushing it. Thank you.
I've got a question and a statement.
Sure.
I've been making cheese now for 10 years, and everyone asks me where I ate my cheese, and I say a cave, and they have this picturesque vision of I just don't understand that it's not hygienically practical. And I explained to him that by cave we mean a space where we actively and dynamically control temperature and humidity to steer the cheese where we want it to go. And that's my answer to people what cave age is a cheesemaker. But you've given two different examples where it sounds like two of the Affineurs are very hands-off. It sounds very static. It's almost like they put the cheese on the closet. And then other people that are very fastidiously caring and persnickety about, you know, probably everything from the humidity to the temperature to where the cheeses sit on a shelf from day to day. And from your experience, did you see a difference? I mean, in France, it's very easy to come across two of the same cheeses done by different Affineurs. Did you get a chance to taste cheeses where you saw a difference in that treatment?
Right. Yes. Although, yes, we did taste cheeses from different. Well, first of all, I think just to go back to one thing you said, everyone that I met was actively, you know, working with their cheese. There wasn't really anybody who was just kind of putting it aside, you know, and not working with it. And I know certainly there are, you know, not everybody has a cave, you know, there are different kinds of businesses, but everyone I met really was. I think it was just sort of how they perceive themselves was what kind of different. But to answer the question, you know, yeah, it's interesting. I think the Affineur is certainly important, but you know, I tasted, you know, Revolution was one that I tasted probably at, you know, the most. And even the Revolution at Picard was different, you know, different. They work with 13 producers, you know, so even in that case, where it's the same Affineur, you know, all the different cheese systems they had were just different because of the producer. Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, maybe it's you know, the Affineur being able to care for the cheese, but also so much of it comes back to how the cheese is made in the first place. I don't think I answered your question, but I mean, is it just sort of tech differences in what I tasted, or yeah, definitely, yeah. I mean, there were some Marcelins that were, you know, much gooier and creamier because that is sort of what the customers of, you know, one shop preferred. There were some Marcelins that were, you know, younger at a different shop, you know, because that's what their customers preferred. Everybody kind of had, you know, cheeses, or were writing cheeses, I think, with their customers, you know, in mind a little bit.
Is there an expectation for these cheeses when they come to the States that the same kind of affinage is happening here, or is there an understanding from the producers in France that like many shops don't have the ability to do affinage?
Yeah, no, I don't think there's an understanding there. You know, I think most places, even honestly, even Marcel Petit, you know, when they release cheese, they consider it ready for sale. So I don't think there's any kind of expectation, you know, that the cheese is going to continue to be cured, or even honestly, even if it's, you know, not necessarily. Yeah.
That doesn't sound like you're going to work with Affineurs to develop products to do in America. It's not just American.
I can't agree. I'm sorry.
It doesn't sound like in Europe the producers work with Affineurs to develop new products as much as you do in America.
Oh, you mean sort of developing brand new, like non-AOP kinds of things, or?
Well, you said that Vermont Americans,
I see.
they created a new product in partnership with you.
Right. Yeah. Well, so Picard has one, actually. They make this cheese called Mango Bean, which was created, you know, purely honestly for export. You know, so that's one example, you know, that I saw where they wanted a revolution to make it for longer so that it could be exported. So you do see those kinds of, you know, experiments. A occasionally, but yeah, I agree with your point. It's not, you know, it's not necessarily in the same way. I think that you see these partnerships happening in the U.S.
What do you think that says about the difference? Why is that? And what do you think that says about the American?
What does it say about? I think, well, one possibility is obviously a lot of these sort of U.S. shops in America that are working with affinage are you know, new to the field. They you know, they want they're eager and they're interested, you know, and they want to be making a contribution. But you know, maybe it's you know, they don't necessarily want to be working, or it's not that they don't want to be, but maybe they aren't necessarily, they're not working with established cheeses. So I think, you know, a lot of these partnerships, at least, you know, the ones that I sort of learned about, exist because, you know, the Affineurs were interested in doing something, you know, they wanted to work with these cheesemakers, and this was a way that the cheesemakers felt, you know, comfortable working with them. Yes?
You had the video released to the robot.
Oh, yeah, I don't know if I can, maybe need some technical assistance on that. It's not loaded in my presentation, it's just on my computer, so, gosh, I don't know. Let me see, I can, yeah, if people want to see it, maybe I can show you after the room clears or something.
I just want to say thank you for sharing this experience with us. It sounds like a really amazing opportunity that you had, and nothing you get to see the style of these teams and learn about some of the trade secrets out there. And from your personal perspective, having experienced all this, how do you expect it's going to change your approach to cheese and longer?
That's something I've thought a lot about, you know, definitely in the past couple of months. You know, yeah, I mean, it's interesting because, of course, like I said, you know, not everybody has a cave, you know, nor would I recommend, you know, that everybody has a cave. I mean, it's not, you could have a cave and still not be selling very good cheese. I think, you know, so much of it, again, does come down to tasting and, you know, working with your cheese every day, you know, looking at it, troubleshooting problems. You know, for these folks, having a cave is what enabled that. You know, it's just a part of what they do, and it's a part of what they've done, you know, for all their lives. Without a cave, you know, I still think those basic things kind of, they still are important. Figuring out a way that, you know, you can care for your cheese given the circumstances that you have. It was interesting to talk to the folks at Neil's Yard about this because, you know, yards haven't always existed. You know, the folks there used to do a lot more care in the shop, and they talked about that. You know, it was just figuring out, you know, how their cases worked, where there are sort of older parts of the case, where the younger parts of the case, you know, you put things in boxes to kind of, you know, get a better result. So, you know, I think that's an important thing to remember. You know, it's something that I think about. You know, I try to think of ways that we can do this. I work for a distributor, so it's we're much bigger. You know, it's just a different kind of business. But I certainly think all those basic things can be applied in whatever size business you work for. Does that make sense? This is my list of folks who are really so instrumental in helping. But again, I really appreciate everybody coming today. Thank you also for everybody. Mr. President, the board of directors.